It was just another quiet morning at Buckingham Palace. March 15, 2024. King Charles III was seated in his private study, sipping his tea, poring over documents tied to his upcoming coronation. He looked older than usual, his face worn with the weight of both grief and responsibility. The absence of Queen Elizabeth still lingered in the air like a ghost, and now the crown was his to carry. But nothing, not the paperwork, not the title, not even the crown jewels, would prepare him for what arrived that morning. His secretary, Sir Clive Alderton, entered the room with the usual stack of mail, but sitting atop the pile was something that didn't belong. A small package wrapped in faded blue paper. No royal insignia, no return address, just Charles's name scrawled in handwriting that stopped him cold. Elegant, feminine, familiar. Diana. Sir Clive noticed the shift in his expression. "Shall I have it screened, Your Majesty?" Charles didn't even look up. "No, leave it." As the door clicked shut behind him, Charles stared at the package. His hands, usually steady from decades of protocol, were trembling. He unwrapped it slowly, careful not to rip the paper. Inside was a box. Not just any box, Diana's. The one she kept tucked away in her private suite at Kensington. The mahogany still smelled faintly of jasmine and roses, her favorite scent. On top of the lid sat an envelope, cream-colored, edges slightly curled with time. Charles, it read. Just his name, no titles, no formality. He opened it. "My dearest Charles," it began. "If you are reading this, then I am gone, and you have finally learned what I always knew." His eyes blurred instantly. He hadn't cried in years, not at the funeral, not during the endless tabloid storms. But now, alone with her handwriting, her scent, her memory, he was undone. The note spoke of their love, hidden beneath years of public drama. "Open this box when you finally understand what love means," she wrote. It felt like she knew he'd need decades to be ready. He lifted the lid. Inside were familiar pieces, bracelets, earrings, a few photos, but nestled beneath the silk was something else. A second envelope. This one dated just hours before her Paris trip. It was hastily written, as if penned in a rush, words smudged by tears. "Charles, I'm leaving for Paris tonight, but I had to tell you the truth before I go. The baby I lost in December 1985, she wasn't from James. She was ours, our daughter." His breath caught in his throat. "A daughter?" He stumbled back into his chair. He had no idea. Diana had carried that pain completely alone. Through the chaos of their crumbling marriage, the affairs, the tabloid battles, she had mourned a child he never even knew existed. She had named her Elizabeth Rose, after his mother and her own middle name. She was buried quietly at Althorpe, under a headstone that simply read, "Beloved Daughter." Diana had visited her every December 23rd. All those years, Charles had assumed Diana's Christmas sadness was theatrical. He never imagined she was grieving their child. Then came the locket, a small white gold pendant with a diamond in the center. Inside were two photos. On one side, him and Diana, smiling, still young, still hopeful. On the other, a sonogram, their daughter. He pressed the locket to his chest, gasping for air. His entire life had been lived under protocol and performance. But here was something real, unfiltered, human. And then, just when he thought he couldn't feel any more broken, he noticed another envelope at the bottom of the box. Bigger, thicker, with one haunting instruction, "Read this last!" But Charles didn't wait. Not this time. Not again. The envelope was heavier than it looked, sealed with a single piece of gold wax. Charles ran his fingers over the handwriting, Diana's again. But this wasn't a note. Inside was a diary entry dated July 15th, 1997. As he unfolded the pages, her words opened like wounds that had never healed. "I've been thinking about us again, Charles. About the real us. Not the couple on magazine covers. Not the bitter exes the world chose sides over. But us. Two broken people who once promised each other forever." He paused, already struggling to keep himself together. Diana's tone wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was raw, honest, filled with a painful clarity he had never seen from her in public. She wasn't lashing out, she was trying to reach him. She wrote about their first night at Balmoral, long before the engagement, when they'd walked together under the stars. "You told me you were scared of becoming king," she wrote. "You said you were afraid the crown would swallow you whole. I told you I would help you remember who you were." Charles clenched the letter tighter. He remembered that night, the lock, the silence, the way Diana had held his hand like she believed in him more than he did himself. "I failed you," she admitted. "I lost myself in the noise. I let hurt become anger. I let the cameras into our marriage when I should have slammed the door." It was a side of her he rarely saw. Not the woman who made headlines, but the one who used to sneak into his study just to sit beside him and read in silence. The one who knew he talked to his plants and laughed at his own terrible jokes. "I never stopped loving you," she wrote, "even when I tried to convince myself I had." Then came the part that ripped the floor out from beneath him. "I'm ending things with Dodie," she confessed. "It was never real, just a distraction, a desperate attempt to feel something other than heartbreak. She had planned to come home, not just to London, but to him. She wanted to meet in secret, talk things through, away from the press, away from advisors. There was even a note attached from Sir Robert Fellows confirming a private meeting set for September 1st, Windsor Castle. No staff, no security. It's just the two of them. Charles remembered being told about a personal matter in late August. He had agreed to meet, not knowing what it was about. But the meeting never happened. The plane crash had stolen that chance. And yet,